Hi, I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman. I'm the wellness director at Lutheran Hospital. Started that about August the 5th. I did neurosurgery actually for 44 years, but only 39 years old. No, matter of fact, next month I'm celebrating the 39th anniversary of my 39th birthday. And all kidding aside, this is a very interesting subject that we're speaking about today. Wellness is really my gig. It really is. 30 years ago, I think in my practice of neurosurgery, I began to realize and see that majority of patients I could well by coaching them in exercise and weight reduction and teaching them yoga and breathing techniques and all sorts of things to make them well without a lot of heroics. So that's sort of in my blood. This is where I come from. I got a lot of people well that way. And this subject today, I don't hear much discussed in the medical literature, although a Dr. James Levine wrote a very good book, Move a Little, Lose a Lot. It's been out a while. He's done research at the Mayo Clinic for over 20 years on this subject, and I'll explain in a minute what it's really all about. And because many of us, are very, very busy and have children and multiple jobs, and we don't frankly have the time to exercise. And so if we can lose some calories while we're sitting, or some variants of that, boy, that'd be interesting to learn. So we have a sitting society today. We used to work on the farm and labor, and no matter what we ate, we were skinny. But today, we're sitting down a lot, and many of us are getting sick. So this is also called NEAT, N-E-A-T, non-exercise activity thermogenics. In other words, how many calories can we burn by our activities of the day not related to formal exercise? NEAT, N-E-A-T, non-exercise activity thermogenics. How many calories can we burn with our NEAT activities? And I explained that in more detail. The calories that we burn per day, let's go over that a minute. Your basic metabolic rate, okay, that's your heart and your lungs and the activities and your kidneys and your metabolism, all that eats up a certain amount of calories per day, and that's about 60% of your calories. It varies a little bit about how big you are. If you're a bigger person, because you get bigger muscles and there's more weight to bear, your basic metabolic rate, you're going to burn up more calories. You're going to burn up more calories, although because you don't move that much, your base metabolic rate though may actually be lower. But say it's 60%. Then 15% of your calories is a TEF, the thermic effect of food, the metabolism of your food, breaking down the food and reassembling it and metabolism of your body. That's 10%. So we're up to about 60% or so. 70%, somewhere in there. But the other 30-40% are due to, do you have a formal exercise program? Would be a certain percentage. But even if you do the most vigorous exercise, what do you lose in an hour? 300 calories. If you do exercise for an hour and you're not extremely vigorous, 200 calories. So you can see the calorie burn is not huge. So what's going to happen to the other 500-700 calories that you're going to expend that day? There can be variance among us from 20 to 50%. Yes, the difference between 20 and 50%. That's a huge difference in calorie expenditure. And this is what we can vary the most. Many of us are too busy, don't have the time to exercise. Now that I have my second job and not neurosurgery, things are a little easier. I do work out for 1 hour a day, besides taking a half-hour walk every day. Most people wouldn't have the time for that. But how could a person improve their non-exercise activity? How could you improve that? For example, some obvious things. You can walk the stairs instead of using an elevator would be a good thing. You're carrying in the groceries, maybe make 2 trips instead of 1. Maybe you're at the supermarket and at the market, and the first thing you might do is walk around the market once and then go once more and do the shopping. So many different ways you could increases. So sleeping is not considered a NEAT activity, okay, and neither is eating or sports activity. Remember, sports activity is not a NEAT activity, but the formal program I'm speaking about. So what are NEAT activities? Non-exercise activity thermogenics. Walking to work, typing, yard work, doing the dishes standing up. The difference in calorie expenditure, if you were sitting, would be about 5 calories an hour. If you're standing up, 15. Yeah. Some people have developed treadmills now, have a treadmill at work. Yeah, a company makes these where you're standing on a treadmill and using your computer. I saw a girl at Starbucks yesterday who was perfectly fit, very fit woman. And she had an empty chair next to her, and she's standing up typing. That's a NEAT activity, okay? Non-exercise activity. She's burning up extra calories because of that. So to keep, and how do you measure that? They have methods of measuring that. A pedometer, a thing on your foot, doesn't work as good because we don't know what's a short step or a long step. But they do make little oscillometers today. A triaxial one called the Groove, G-R-U-V-E. I ordered one. I haven't tried it yet, but the size of a silver dollar, put it in your belt, and that would measure the vibrations of your body, so you get some idea, and then you put it in your computer, some idea how many calories am I burning in my NEAT activity level. And this is very interesting. I think we need to look at that with all of us, how we can increase our calorie burn, make ourselves more healthy, because health is related to what you weigh. There's no doubt about that. Like a manual worker, remember the activity of work counts in your NEAT activity. Have the great more calories. It burns up. An Amish person, for example, takes about 16,000 steps a day on the farm versus sedentary people about 6,000. You see the difference? And I understand that because I made some house calls on the wonderful Amish people after I did some surgery just to get to know the culture. And I thought some of the food was a little bit fat, very sugary actually, but they all looked healthy. They burned them up. Their NEAT activity is high. Yeah, every person I looked at, the 50 Amish people I looked at, they were all skinny. Interesting enough, the neighbor lady there who gave me the phone number how to get there, who didn't do the work of the Amish, but ate with them because her husband had died, and they're such nice people, they brought her over for the food every day, but she didn't do none of their work, was seriously overweight. And not being, there's no, a non-judgmental zone, but again, it's sort of proof what I'm speaking about here. So obviously a person who sits at work all day that doesn't move has very low NEAT activity, not burning up any calories. So a lean person, because their body isn't as big, actually the calorie burn goes down a bit because their basic metabolic rate may be lower because it doesn't have all the musculature firing off. And an obese person has, stored a lot of calories, a lot of muscles if they stand up, and would increase their calorie burn. And and as I mentioned, in our human energy balance, we have the basic metabolic rate, the TEF, the TEF, that's the calories we burn from digestion. And then we have activity thermogenesis, of which is organized sports activity, or our NEAT, our non-exercise activity calorie burn. When you add it up, that'll determine how many calories burn up every day. If you have a sedentary job, your basic metabolic rate, you'll have about 60% maybe of an active individual. So you can increase your basic metabolic rate by exercising regular, for example. And so there's a great variability of that. 75% of a BMR is determined by lean body mass. What is our body size minus the fat on our body? And we already mentioned that the TEF, the food, digestion, absorption, storage, eats about 10% of our calories. And only about 10%, unfortunately, of the American people exercise regularly. Yeah, they don't walk much. We use cars to go to work because we don't have good sidewalks a lot of the times, although that's improving. A lot of us, I know I did, a lot of us donate some money to increase the sidewalks in the city, and that's been a wonderful thing. I see people using them all the time. But in Europe, like you go to Spain, what do people do all night? They're walking. They go to the cafes, having a cup of tea, maybe a small little bite of something to eat, something with hummus, some vegetable thing, very healthy eating, and they walk. And that's why they're so thin. Although it's changing, we have an international obesity epidemic occurring because there's so much more sugary foods, sugary drinks, and it's changing all over the world. But our cultures, you've seen them, where people are generally quite thin, they do a lot of walking. So their NEAT activity, their non-exercise, formal exercise activity is much higher than ours. And what are good NEAT activities? Depends on your occupation and leisure time. Are you playing ball with the kids, or are you sitting around watching television? We have, the average American watches, I frankly couldn't believe it, 5 hours of television a day. I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine that. I don't think I get in a half hour a day. And yeah, 5 hours a day, of course, they're sitting there not burning any calories, so their NEAT activity is quite low. Whether you're standing at work or walking, whether you're talking, even gum chewing takes, believe it or not, a certain amount of calories. Guitar playing and instrument playing. I was yesterday getting a haircut, and I'm beginning to think in terms of NEAT, which I didn't before. And I asked the lady cutting my hair, and she says, oh, you know, I do about 5 customers a day. One took 2 hours a day. The whole time she's standing up, and all the time her arms are moving quite. Can you imagine? I tried to estimate the amount of calories that she uses up, that she burns up in her work activity. Geez, I wonder if it's in 1,000. And it'd be interesting to measure, to put one of these groove monitors in her. Maybe I'll do it, actually. She cuts my hair regularly. I think I'll let her borrow mine just to see how many calories she burns a day. It'd be fascinating to know. I think, hope she's watching the show. I think we'll do that. Of course, dancing is one of the best ways to improve your NEAT activity. If you got nobody to dance with at home, dance by yourself. I'm sure as heck I've done it. I've danced with my cats and dogs. I was on Dancing with the Stars one time in town here, a big fundraiser, and just loved it. And I can't seem to stop doing it. That's a wonderful NEAT activity. Burns calories, makes you feel good, helps your mind, helps your body, and you increase your NEAT burn. Remember, I said there can be a variance from 20 to 50% difference in individuals. And let me tell you something here. This is interesting. Burning 200 extra calories a day. Okay, all right. I mean, a half-hour walk would get you about 150. If you walk very rapidly, maybe get you 200. In 1 year, if you do that every day for a year, 20 pounds. Yes, yes. Figure it out. The days of the year. Yes, it's 3,500 calories a pound. In my mathematics, I don't think it's off that much. So, 300 calories a day, 30 pounds a year. Wow. Without doing anything, just eating exactly the same. Could you imagine, though, if you added some healthy eating on top of that? You'd achieve your weight loss, I mean like that. Your type 2 diabetes, your hypertension would go away. Type 2 diabetes can be cured 90% of the time. A lot of people don't know it, but I've written books on it. So how have they measured the amount of activity? I mean, they've done it through many different ways. Calorimeters, they've your CO2 and O2, but it's difficult. But they've developed tables now that Dr. Levine did a lot of this, that you can estimate pretty much how many calories you burn, you know, per activity. That's pretty well known. But you can wear one of these triaxial accelerometers, the Groove, which I mentioned. I have no financial interest in it. You can get it. You can get them online. And like I said, mine isn't there yet. And but I've heard that's a good one. And see how many NEAT calories you burn a day. It'd be interesting. And then you can figure out how many you like to increase. So in a very busy person, you get 4 or 5 kids, and you can't possibly grab a half hour, take a walk, for example, and burn 150 calories or something, which will be good for your mind, good for your body, good for your heart, good for your brain. makes brain cells grow. Yes, exercise causes neuroplasticity, increases your brain cells to grow, which is very interesting. And there is some genetic variability among us. Some are naturally a little more athletic than others, for example. But I'll tell you honestly that our evolutionary body, our genes structure, through epigenetics, reacts to our activities we do, to the food we ate. Yes, food is information. Yes, the molecules respond to your genetic structure, and if your genetic structure is not used to the food you're eating, high sugary foods, high fat foods, it will revolt, resulting in vascular disease, diabetes, dementia, autoimmune disease. Food is genetic information. Yeah, and your genetic structure, we used to think you yourself can change it. Your 23 chromosomes and 30,000 genes. Yes, you indeed can. It's called epigenetics. And if you think of it this way, you have my arm here, okay? The sweater or jacket I'm wearing are the epigenes. They're the epigenes. And they, after conception, respond to what your mother did, what she ate, whether she's smoking or not, whether she's drinking a lot. You can change your genes. You can change your genes. And what you do through your lifetime will affect your genetic structure. What kind of food are you eating? How much are you exercising will affect your gene structure. So we're not totally stuck with the genes in the majority of the time that we inherit. Some, of course, difficult to change, but you can change a lot of your genetic structure through epigenetics, through the things that you eat, the activities that you do. They respond to your genes. Food is information. Food is information. So our genetic variability, genetic diseases, maybe 2% of diseases. So everyone speaks about genetic testing. Well, in certain circumstances, it has some value. You had cancer and they don't know what drug works. Genetic testing has some value. And other times it does too. But a lot of the time, it's much more of what you do and how it responds to your genes is much more critical. And there are age differences in our calorie burn. Obviously, you're 90 years old, it's more difficult to do a calorie burn. But again, even if you're severely disabled, if you weigh 250 pounds, so you get type 2 diabetes, and I can't get exercise, I say to you, work on this sitting disease. Maybe read Dr. Levine's book or look at my DVD. Oh my God, this that'll be on YouTube, and improve your NEAT activities. You know, even just standing and doing some knee bends, you know, exercise your quads, doing some lunges, all that burns up a lot of calories. That's improving your NEAT activities. And you could probably sit down with a pencil and paper and make a list of all the ways you feel that you could improve your NEAT activities. Maybe some weightlifting. You could do that 3-4 times a day, and no matter how sick you are. And you might find out, wow, I'm burning 300 more calories with my NEAT activity, although I'm disabled. And in 1 year, you'll have lost 30 pounds. Wow, isn't this great? You see why I'm a little enthusiastic about this? You see the point? And after, you know, I highly recommend exercise. I do it all the time, play tennis 1 hour a day. I'm at Planet Fitness or Species. To have our walk in the morning, do some Tai Chi and Qigong while I'm walking. I started doing that recently because it's relaxing. But a lot of us don't have the time for that. And you don't need that because NEAT activity could eat up those calories and keep you very healthy. We're not just talking about weight, we're talking about health. On my wellness teaching that I do, I have a wheel of 8. Number 1 is you must participate in your health care. I'm asking you to participate in your health care. You just can't go to a provider and it's a script, okay? You're more than that. Scripts are important, but you are more than that, and you must help participate. And a great way would be to really learn about this need activities. You'll find many providers don't know about it. I just learned about it recently, and I think it's getting, to me, it's going to be a huge thing. When only 10% of the people belong to a gym, we get 90% of the people who could improve their NEAT and be tremendously much healthier. We're heading at 1 out of 2 people going to have diabetes. It's occurring throughout the world. They're going to die 20 years younger, and the costs in terms of bad health and the costs financially, I don't think our country, frankly, could withstand it. But it's occurring all over the world. The Middle East, Saudi Arabia, I was reading recently, it's just exploding over there. It's a combination of high fructose corn syrup drinks and eating the mad, sad American diet of fat, salt, and sugar. And they're exploding over there with the type 2 diabetes. South Korea, Vietnam, the same thing. So it's not just us, but we rank around 30th by the World Health Organization in terms of health. So we need to participate in what we are doing. And it's our genetic structure. It's the response of the food to our genetic structure. The same racial groups, the same ethnic groups in another country where they're eating different food don't have these illnesses. So it's not racial. It's not racial. It's what they're eating over here. It's what they're eating over here. And so there's some difference between men and women. Women are not quite as active as men, but except as they get older, they seem to be more active. I see a lot of women playing tennis and walking and working out. Women, I think, are quite conscious. Conscious about it, but men in general move a little more because I think their work activity largely. But in terms of formal exercise, I'm beginning to see a lot more women than men there. And I think men rather sit behind the TV, watch a ball game, and the woman's out jogging. Okay, so there are differences, and if you can get your child to exercise, I think that's a big thing. I had breakfast Sunday at a place after my grandson played in a tennis tournament, and I'm at this breakfast place, and what I saw was beyond comprehension, the number of obese children I was looking at. But at the tennis place where I'd been at, I was like I had landed on Mars. Every adult, every child I looked at, probably 100 of them, all of normal weight. Now, why is that? Why is that? They can afford to play tennis? Well, it could be one thing. That could be one thing. But I think as people know more about proper eating, I think they eat better. But I think finances could have something to do with it, because where I work out, there's a lot more people that would not be in that economic situation. They're working out there like anything, and it's very cheap, which I compliment them on. $10 a month. I love it. I love it. I compliment their owners because it gives a chance to work out. But remember, I said that alone, I'm afraid, is not going to do it. They'll have a calorie burn 200 to 300 maybe per hour. They need more than that. So they need to know about this NEAT activity, and they need to know about proper eating. While we're on the eating subject a little bit here, the enemy is sugar. It's sugar. You know, I used to think it's just fat, but fat doesn't raise the blood sugar. Sugar, especially the half of sucrose, that is fructose. Yeah, half of sucrose, table sugar, 50% glucose, 50% fructose. Fructose goes in the blood to the liver and forms very low density LDL, fatty liver, causes insulin resistance, and that's what's making us sick. That's what's making us sick. It's not the fat we eat. If you're overweight, you eat a lot of fat, it's calorie dense. You're going to get more weight. But fructose, yes, the same stuff in fruit, unfortunately. 2 or 3 pieces of fruit, though, are fine because they have vitamins and minerals and fiber, and that's okay. It's the same fructose in fruit. That's half of sucrose that goes to the liver. It's what's making us fat, causes inflammation throughout the body. Yes, it's inflammation. When I look at a 220-pound person or so, somewhere in that range, I personally think their body is inflamed because of the sugar that they're eating. So really got to watch the sugar. Really want Really got to watch the sugar. So education is important. This is what I'm trying to do today, not being derogatory nor judgmental. But we need to figure out ways in your life, make a list how you can increase your NEAT activities. You have no time to do formal exercise, which 90% of the people don't get to it. Okay, some don't have time, some don't want to, and so the total NEAT activity varies from person to person. It depends on your lifestyle, on your culture, your walking habits. Are you in a community like New York, where I used to live, where people walk a great deal? There's a park, Central Park, I used to be in, and my parents walked in there a lot, although they had a deli and didn't eat the best food in the world, you could imagine. But my father walked a lot. He always walked a lot, lived to age 90. Although he didn't eat too good food, he ate the deli food. But he lived to age 90 because he walked all the time. And he walked in the deli all the time, and he was making sandwiches and cutting meat. And so his NEAT activity was quite high. A lot of walking in the park, feeding the squirrels, and had walked to the park. That was about 5 blocks both ways, and then working in the deli all day, 12 hours a day at least. And you could see the NEAT activity that he was. None exercise, activity, thermogenics, burning calories, so low NEAT activity over a long period of time is actually more effective than very rapid activity over a short period of time. If people walk all day long, for example, or let's say take the hairdresser, they're going to burn a lot more calories. I'd be interested to know what her calorie burn is, and I will figure it out. Difference in occupations, makes a lot of difference. If you're sitting all day, I think you really ought to pay attention to this and see if you can't change. I mean, it's really very important, so a lot of differences in our activities period. So there can be 500-600 calorie difference among us in what we do, how much NEAT activity that we have. But the majority of Americans, they're watching TV, they're looking at videos, they have iPads, and paying no attention and not burning many calories. And but if you park your car maybe further away from your work, so you have to walk more, use the stairs, and if you're waiting on something or answering the phone, stand up instead of sitting down. Make it to be a habit. A lot of your NEAT activities could become habits. I know a Dr. Campbell, a great neurosurgeon in Indianapolis. I remember I'm going back over 40 years, and he was a teacher. He never used the elevator. I remember that to this day. He's always running up and down the elevator. Well, guess what? I think he's still alive. See, he's got to be in his 90s at least. I think he's still alive. And but that was his habit, I remember. I never seen anybody else do that, but he would literally run the stairs. I don't recommend that because that's some dangerous, but he held on to the railing, always held on to the railing. I saw him do it. And maybe he had a medical problem, I don't know. Small changes, not huge changes. So like the cover of this book, move a little, but over time, you lose a lot. So keep track of it. I think this is great. And try to improve your NEAT activity at work. You're getting paid, you get work, you might as well get it done there. In this country, we have 30,000 health clubs, 45 million people, money that they spend in the weight loss industry. But what are the benefits in the long run? They're great benefits psychologically, physically, but is the benefit fantastic? To some people it is, but on the average it's not. This place I work out at, a lot of people are overweight, and there's a free judgment zone here. But they need more than that. They need to increase their NEAT activity. They need to watch the food they're eating, and they'll have great results. They'll have great results. But we've got 1 to 2 billion people in the world that are overweight. We have an obesity epidemic in the world, and they're going to get all these chronic diseases, which are totally preventable. And Dr. Levine, who wrote this book, had an interesting story in there about a young man that he had met where he got onto this. He himself was a bit out of shape, but he's speaking to this patient, and he had to have a really talking and get to know the people. And this gentleman, married, 45 years old, very happy. It kind of struck him how happy this guy was, how fit he was. So he took more detailed history about him and how leading his life. He had a very ordinary job, but he walked to it every day. He walked back every day. He played sports with his children, played tennis with his wife, and his wife went dancing all the time. And I suspect they had a great love life, because he met the wife, a beautiful woman. And then he realized that this man, different kind of a person, that he had a great deal of neat activity. He was burning calories all day long. At work, he worked behind a counter, going back and forth, and going back and home, and used the stairs all the time. Watched a bit what he ate, and was extremely healthy. That taught Dr. Levine a lesson, and that brought up his interest in the subject. And he's done research on it 20 years at the Mayo Clinic. I'd love to meet him and visit him. But it's a great story in his book about that. So use your imagination to improve your neat activity. You could probably dream up things that I don't even mention here to improve this activity. So study something about it. And I already mentioned the Amish and their activities, how they stay so healthy, although not eating healthy food. And I've been there enough to know now they eat very fat, sugary foods, but seem to be getting away with it, although I'm not looking at their blood work, but I tell you, their bodies were all in perfect shape. And so the amount of calories we burn, if you're seated all day at work, you might burn about 1,000 calories. If you stand up while you're working like a homemaker or standing by the computer, you're going to burn about 1,400 calories. 400 calorie difference. Wow. That's 40 pounds in a year, isn't it? If you eat the same. And strenuous work, you probably burn about 2,300 calories a day. Isn't this something? So, but if you're working real hard 5 days a week, you get Saturday or Sunday off, make a point to at least take a nice walk. Remember, that's about an hour, 250 calories, depending how fast you walk. An easy calorie burn. If you do activities with the arms like I do, Tai Chi and Qigong, or sing a song, speak to the birds, or deer on occasion like I do, you're going to burn more. I do. It just makes me feel good. And we have a nation now of multitaskers. We're so busy, we don't seem to take the time to do anything for us. It's got to change. You got to say, this is what I'm doing for us, and include the children and the husband. None of this watching a ball game all day and eating chips, and no one exercises. You're going to get sick. I mean, you're going to gain a bunch of weight and get diabetes and hypertension, and then you wonder why you're ill. You must participate in your health care. It isn't just a matter of here's your medication. No, we need to try to prevent those illnesses. If you need medicine, you absolutely need. Absolutely, I'm for medicine. I'm for full-time scientific medicine. But we maybe practice wellness at the same time. Integrative medicine. Wellness and scientific medicine together lead to good health. Together. This is not alternative. We're not saying alternatives. Regular Western medicine combination with wellness medicine leads to great health. And people say, well, good food is too expensive. Wait a minute. I've checked on that. If you buy it in bulks, it's actually cheaper. And besides, if you eat healthy, you're not sick. You're not sick. You're not going to get these huge bills. They all get deductibles now and co-pays. You're going to spend a fortune. What are most deductibles in healthcare policies? $5,000. But if you eat healthily, you won't need to spend that. So I think being healthy is cheaper by a long way. I've studied that. And we're like vampires. people suck the time out of us. They want 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here, and we don't. They want us at work 12 hours a day, not pay us for overtime, and then we don't exercise, and we're stressed. We fall asleep at the wheel going home. We need to slow down a little bit in our society. We need to slow down a little bit and do some of this neat activity. And so, and drive, if you can possibly walk to work, try that one. But most of us, driving 30 miles, what's a calorie burn in this time? Very little, about 30 calories if you drive to work. Incidentally, don't use your car as a kitchen. That's a bad habit. I've done some of that, and they don't recommend it, and the point is too. But occasionally, if you're starved and you want to eat 5 or 6 nuts, I mean, I personally couldn't see anything wrong with that. Cut out your appetite. Cut your appetite down. But don't generally use this as a kitchen. That can kind of get to be a habit. I saw myself almost doing it. Every time you increase a little more, you keep them there, and and you can pick up a lot of calories munching on a 1-hour drive home from work. Have a bottle of water. Have a few nuts. Maybe have a banana or an apple, and to reduce appetite. So when you get home, so that's a good idea. Going across calorie burns a little bit, sitting 5 calories an hour, standing 15, gum chewing 20, okay? Stair climbing about 200 calories a day if you use the stairs. And if you're high rise, you can, if you work on the 20th floor, you can always take the elevator to the 17th floor and walk the rest. At the hospital, Lutheran Hospital I worked at all those years, had long hallways to my office. I walked those all the time and try not to use the elevator. It's a 4-floor, 5-floor hospital now. But that's a pretty good calorie burn. You add that up. I mean, it was many miles I walked every day, and then stood in surgery. All those 44 years I did surgery, I was standing. So there's a lot of neat activity and using my arms. So that was pretty good, neat activity, really. But then you have another laborer who's really working in the factory or something. They can have tremendous calorie burn, neat activity right there, as long as you don't go home and then eat a very fatty, high sugary meal and eat more calories than they burned up through the day. If you eat the right food, you don't need to diet. No. If you have half your plate is vegetables, another quarter is whole grains, another quarter good proteins, nuts and seeds, and some omega-3 fish, which would be sardines and mackerel and herring. I saw a nutritionist use the word pick fish. Smash is a good word. Pick a fish for each letter. From mackerel to sardines and salmon, good omega-3s. And if you're going to eat steaks and things, make sure that they're raised on an organic farm. Otherwise, they're full of omega-6s, which are pro-inflammatory, that inflames your arteries, and you're on fire. You're going to get vascular disease, heart disease, so you should be eating organic meat. Always ask for the fish, too. Is this out of a fish pond, or is this out of the ocean? Because in the fish pond, they give them fatty food to eat the fish. They want to fatten the fish up, put it on your plate, but you're eating high inflammatory food. You want to avoid that. So pay attention to what you're going to eat here. Pay attention to what you're going to eat. Walking, like I mentioned already, at 1 mile an hour burns 100 calories. 2 miles an hour, 250. 3 miles an hour, about 230. If you want to measure your activity, get one of these Groove devices, or a pedometer. Tells you something, but it's not that accurate, but it gives you a good information. In hibernation, now when animals hibernate, they want to live, through the winter, and we've had a horrible winter, and I'm glad to see my animals that invade my house. Most of them seem to show up alive. I saw an opossum and a groundhog and 6 deer the other day. They seem to survive the winter, but they store fat in hibernation. The ones that really go into hibernation, their basic metabolic rate goes way down. Their temperature goes way down, so they're not burning anywhere near the calories that they burned. I mean, there's some frogs that have so much fat stored that they can live under the ground 5 years before they burn up all their fat. because the heart rate goes so low. So that's, but we are living like we're in hibernation. But the darn trouble is, in the spring, animals that hibernate, a switch occurs in their body, and they go back to normal weight. But we don't have a switch in our body. We don't have a switch in our body, and if we're eating unhealthy food through the winter, we're going to remain overweight all year long and get the secondary diseases from that. Activity studies indicate people who are inactive have 2 to 3 times the rate of heart disease. They get metabolic syndrome, combination of hypertension and diseases 2 to 3 times as high. So there's a tremendous difference. And as I already mentioned, so in summary, that our NEAT activities can reverse and prevent a lot of our disease. They even make a SUD, S-U-D, desk. That's a stand-up desk now that you can buy, maybe employer buy it, where you can stand and work at the desk. They make another one with a treadmill and a desk. You use a computer. Of course, you have power going. And I've seen it used. I saw one of the radiologists at the hospital standing up. I didn't even think about that, working, standing up on his computer. Yeah, I saw it maybe a few months ago. It didn't really hit me, but I saw him walking down the hall at Lutheran today, and I spoke to him. Now I know why you got that stand-up desk. He must have known. And I would imagine most X-ray specialists sit down all day to read the X-rays. That's in their literature or recommendations. So maybe he figured out himself. But he's got a SUD desk, S-U-D. He's there dictating, standing up. It was kind of interesting. And our cells have in them lipase, 70 trillion cells, and that's almost. And that gets messages from your activity, from your NEAT activity. It'll reduce the amount of fat that's laid down. Belly fat responds to NEAT activity. You increase your NEAT activity, your belly fat will be the first to leave. And the belly fat is not just under your skin. No, it's not just under your skin. It sits in your organs. It's around your heart. It's in your liver. It's in your pancreas. It's in the omentum that surrounds your gut. And fat is a gland. It makes 20 nasty chemicals. It causes chemicals that cause dementia, chemicals that cause diabetes, chemicals that cause cancer, that cause autoimmune disease. Fat is a gland. It doesn't quietly just sit there. So especially belly fat, very dangerous. Very dangerous, because the fat is sitting in your liver, making it sick, inflaming. It's inflaming your body. Remember what I said? You're way overweight. What I see is a fire going on, and I'm not kidding. It's inflammation of your body due to this very low density LDL, and insulin does it. High insulin levels from high blood sugar levels inflame your brain cells, your joints. That's why people overweight tend to have a lot of hip transplant, a lot of knee transplant, because their joints are inflamed. The sugar attaches to a protein called AGEs, advanced glycation products, and they deposit in your joints and stiffen them. Eventually, you need a new knee and a new hip. Very common thing. Can be not 100%, but can be 90%. Avoid it. Incidentally, Thomas Jefferson, Winston Churchill, Aristotle, Einstein worked at the desk standing up. Yes, Einstein said he came up with the EMC square formula while riding a bicycle. He's a very active individual. And if you increase your NEAT activity, you have less depression, and it increases the growth of your brain cells. That's something called neuroplasticity. It's called neuroplasticity. We can indeed grow more new brain cells, and proper eating and proper exercise will do that. And we really, again, want to mention dancing as being the greatest NEAT activity. And how much I enjoyed it when I was Dancing with the Stars, a fundraiser in town here. That's a wonderful way to exercise and make yourself feel good. and you take your wife out dancing, your husband out dancing, I tell you, you're going to have a better marriage too. So I think the whole nation, frankly, myself, needs to dance more. Kids like to dance. And at least maybe if you can possibly, somehow, if you can increase your routine NEAT activities, take a half-hour walk. Somehow try to get it in. This is it's relaxing. It's a calorie burn. Remember I said, NEAT activity really is more important than all out triathlons and riding a bike for 5 miles and all this stuff. The most calories that you can frankly burn if you work out like a dog, 350 calories an hour. I mean, you know, if you walk an hour and a half, you're going to burn that much at a routine pace. Get the point? You get the point? That's a lot easier to do. And there is a hormone in the hypothalamus at the base of your brain called orexin, O-R-E-X-I-N, that seems to be turned on when you increase your NEAT activities and results in good health. Most of us can turn this all around in about 21 days. In about 21 days, you can, and if you watch what you eat and you increase your calorie burn, it's not hard to lose a pound a week if you eat a nutrient-dense diet. If you got to watch the white bread, the wheat products. You hear a lot about gluten. As I heard a nutritionist say today, if you can make a baseball out of it, you make a ball out of it, don't eat it because of the gluten. The gluten is what makes it sticky. Eat a nutrient whole bread. The bread, you know, in the Mediterranean days used to weigh 5 pounds a loaf. Look at today's bread; it's like a feather. And but it's a good bread called Ezekiel bread. You can get it in the freezer section of any of the supermarkets. It is made from sprouts. It's quite healthy, and I've tried it. I eat it. White bread is something. White flour, white bread. It's been stripped of its nutrients. It's nothing but sugar. It's nothing but sugar. If you need a little oomph on stopping sugar eating, go to YouTube. White. Sweet and Deadly. I did a tape on it, but also there's one that is a story of slavery. What was slavery all about? Cotton. It was largely about sugar. It's about sugar. And used to read what they did to people to farm the sugar cane is beyond comprehension. That alone turned me off from sugar. To watch that tape. It's still on there. It's number 1 YouTube under White, Sweet and Deadly. Mine is number 3, I think. And so make a plan, make a commitment, and increase your NEAT activities at work. Avoid the elevator. And maybe over the lunch hour, I see somebody at the hospital here, one of my former typists, walks with the other typists. Every day they do it. They go throughout the whole hallways of the hospital. And they use it like a gym. And both of those are perfectly fit girls. And they've done it as long as I've known them, which, you know, is approaching 30 years. And maybe 40 years, huh? And and maybe your employer will buy you some equipment to work with this. And I mean, they're trying to reduce the cost of health care. And maybe, they would pay attention to it. So even if you just were to burn an extra 200 calories a day, that's 20 pounds end of the year. So it's not that hard. So look at yourself. How much TV am I watching? Am I cutting the lawn, or do I hire somebody to do it? How much driving am I doing? What am I doing in my leisure time? Can I take my son or daughter and go work out somewhere, or go to the Y, or to the school, or just take by the hand and take a walk? Take a dog for your walk. I love to take a dog for a walk. It makes me feel good. I'm sure it makes the dog feel good. And incidentally, my dog's skinny too. And have you noticed overweight people have overweight dogs? Wonder why? I wonder why. Maybe what they're feeding, and maybe because neither one is exercising. Again, this is a no judgment zone. I love you, and I just want you to be healthy. That's all this show is all about. So, but maybe take out a pencil and paper and write down a day in your life. See what it's all about. And other ways to exercise: get some bands, some muscle activity. I tell you, a great one that really burns calorie. is to do some squats or lunges at home. And if you do a lunge standing on one leg, and if you're a little bit imbalanced, grab a post. I do those. That burns a lot of calories. That really strengthens your legs and costs nothing. You do it at home. Just put one hand on the wall, and then on the other leg, just go up and down with it, and then switch. Go to the other leg. That burns a lot of calories, and it's free. And and watch those sugary drinks. Watch the sugar in your life. You'd be amazed. Our 600,000 grocery store foods, look at the labels. There's sugar in most of them, especially fructose corn syrup, which is very dangerous to you because it metabolizes in the liver and makes you fat. You want to be fat, drink sugary drinks. They're out of your life. You have to watch some coffee shops too, yes. You'll see me in coffee shops, but you notice I don't order the sugary drinks. And I'm writing a chapter there, you know, in one of my diet books, and I'm watching what's going by. And that can add up pretty quickly. That can add up pretty quickly. There's a lot of calories in these coffees. They're good. They're great things in coffee shops, but watch. And you get it when you look at the natural flavor fruity drinks too. That's fructose. That's fructose. You know, like 80 grams in some of the ones I've seen. And that fatty liver. You want to obese, drink those. You personally think it's natural flavor. Don't get fooled by natural flavors. That's fructose. Yeah, I was fooled by that, but I really researched that. And and I'm totally convinced good food actually is cheaper. You just got to learn how to cook it and learn how to cook. It's not easy. Dr. Hyman, Mark Hyman, Blood Sugar Solutions, great book. He mentions in there, he's become a great cook. Yeah, it can be learned. I'm thinking of taking cooking lessons because I'm not any good at that. And because he really loves it, and he can fix a meal in 12 minutes. 12 minutes. So to say I don't have time to cook and we have to go to a fast food restaurant, no excuses, no excuses. You just got to practice it and become good at it. It's right in his book, Mark Hyman, Blood Sugar Solutions. Great book. And he's on TV too. There's cooking lessons for free on the TV. Mark Hyman, Blood Sugar Solutions. Great website. Great website. So good food, carefully selected, actually is cheaper. We all need some snacks. Children need some snacks. When I read about the dietitians and children and what to eat, I tell you the main thing, I might not agree with everything they recommend, but there's one thing they all have in common, the family meal. How hard that might be, how critical they think that is, because it's good for children psychologically, and even if they eat some bad food there, they're much more likely to have good food habits if you eat as a family. Today's society is very difficult to do. I had my life to do over again. That's one thing I would insist more is hard to do is when you're a neurosurgeon on the run, you got 3 hospitals you're covering. That's a toughie, but I know one doctor at the hospital, and the surgical nurses will complain about him because at 6 o'clock he stops operating, goes home and eats, comes back at 8, and I can see the inconvenience to the patient and to him, but I could see he had a point. He was going to have dinner with his kids. I can now see the point. And it was great. I've not seen him lately, and I will compliment him that he thought that was so important. We could, argue about that, but I really think that that's a good example. Like your whole family going to eat better if you eat as a family. Have a snack available for the kids, but make it a good snack. Some vegetables and hummus, things like that, and have it ready every time you come home from school. They want a snack, they get a snack. None of these donuts at home and things like that. And have the kids play. Put them outside. Today, kids are inside all the time. They're on the computer 4 hours. They're watching TV and using the iPads, and we're sitting around for dinner. No electronic equipment, and because that can be very distracting. Make the kids play outside. I always did as a child, and people don't do it enough today. I don't see any kids outside. I drive home. The odds of me seeing a child playing outside is 0. And I live in a place where people, there are tennis courts and there are parks and sidewalks to walk. I never see a child exercising. And this is sad. because there's a price to pay. They're going to be unhealthy. When people employ people and they apply for a job, today you can't ask people what illnesses they have. That's illegal. But you can look at them. You can look at them. And I'm sure people are going to select people for jobs that look healthy and not look healthy. If I was an employer, of course I'd do that. And if I don't want to pay the medical bills of people I know are going to be sick all the time. You see the point? It's not being judgmental, but that's reality. And so to get your children to be healthy, I think is very important. And like on Sunday night, you could cook the meals for the next 3 days. Make a pot of beans that'll last 3 days. Nothing like a nice bean soup, for example. But things you have to learn. But these books I recommend are like the books of Dr. Furman, of Dr. Esselstyn, of Dr. Mark Hyman. They all have eating plans in there, and they're good ones. And they're more towards the vegan, vegetarian side. But they're good. They're great desserts. Food full of vitamins, minerals, and foods of color are very healthy and very tasty. They're very tasty. And use some condiments. You just have to learn how to do it, though. You have to learn how to do it. So, in summary, I think this is to me, very interesting. I hope you found it interesting because we have such a busy life that some of us don't have time to do a formal exercise program. Some are disabled, some don't have an inclination. But I don't care what your medical condition is or what your life is, you can improve your non-exercise activity thermogenics. NEAT. Your NEAT activity you can improve. Get out a pencil, piece of paper, and write down how you could do it and figure out how you can increase your calorie burn 200 to 400 calories a day, and you'll be very healthy without changing anything. You can certainly make it a lot easier, too, by eating the right food. You know, cutting out the sugary products, and extra fat doesn't help, especially when it's full of inflammatory factors. But fat is not quite the enemy we thought it was. It's the fructose in sugar that causes fatty liver and very low density LDL. That's your enemy. So you need to learn about glucose and fructose and the fructose content of food. You can get it on the internet, or Dr. Richard Johnson wrote a book, Sugar Fix. In the last 20 pages of the book, he lists all the foods and their fructose contents. A little bit of fructose in food is just fine. You don't want to eat more than 35 grams a day, like a carrot cake, which I love. 50 grams, okay? They said, Dr. Cashman, what do you eat? And I said, I eat seafood. Food I see, I eat. So keep bad food out of the house, is what I'm trying to say. I hope you enjoyed my lecture. Watch some of our other lectures coming out every week. This has been on Public Access TV. I love you all. I'm trying to get you well. This is a non-judgmental thing. I do this just for health education. Being a wellness doctor is natural for me. And I've gotten a lot of people well because they listen. They listen to me. So health education is important. And you must participate in your health care. And I love you all very much. I hope you'll see you at the next show. Thank you.